Hey, this is Maggio from the podcast Marking Into the Paradigm, an unusual approach to creative process in the visual arts that alters our perceptions of reality and changes our belonging. This episode explores joy through marking, revealing a distinction between joy and happiness. And I began with a quote from Zentatsu Richard Baker Roshi, who says, "If realization is an accident, there are ways to make ourselves more accident-prone." This quote from Baker Roshi speaks of spiritual realization that comes upon us as grace. We perceive life as inseparable from the lens through which we see it, and only a stroke of grace can change that. Yet, there are ways of perceiving differently. Paradigms are built on assumptions of beliefs that are not substantiated. Many of these beliefs create painful and continual struggle. However, to change a belief system is not easy. To try to shift a paradigm directly is like leveraging the earth from its orbit. There is no place to stand. Yet at the same time, cultivating this kind of accident is an interesting proposition. Perhaps becoming grace accident-prone means realizing what possibilities the lens curtails. What might a reality look like? What might a practice look like that augments changes in habitual consciousness? At this time in history, our perceptions of reality already seem to be wobbling. Beliefs are often bound to language of the head that discounts embodied experience. So can we speed up the paradigm shift by cultivating a new context created from, say, body intelligence? In Marking Into the Paradigm, we use visual arts materials to explore somatically through the imaginal field experiences like joy. As seen in the exploratory pieces in the visual component to this podcast on YouTube, the imaginal field is explored, played with, and celebrated for insights and connections that could easily be missed. Let's move to body feelings and responses. Beginning with happiness, a constitutional right in this country, even if the pursuit has manifested as collectively as bound to the capitalist machinery. In this context, we see that happiness is temporary. We have all experienced how it comes and goes. We can pursue it, and we do, yet it can turn on a dime. Happiness arrives from outside conditions. Marking is a way to bring forward, through body awareness, self-embedded mental concepts. We cannot readily see beyond our culture's time and place. In exploring joy through marking pieces, I was surprised at how dark my piece began. I had associated joy with brightness and levity. Mind you, I was not trying to articulate or depict joy, but rather wanting to engage it. Still, there was a gap between what I recognized in my body as joy and what was appearing on the substrate. Eventually, I had an insight. My realization was that joy is inclusive. I could feel joy in the midst of sorrow and even confusion. As I excavated the layers of joy, I noticed that it emerged in spite of despair of the planet that I wanted to avoid. By acknowledging this grief in my marking, I became more available to the spectrum that joy includes. This may be the realm of accident proneness to which Baker Roshi speaks. It is also the setup of the joke in the first podcast that initiated a leap in understanding. Now consider your own experience of joy by feeling back to a strong or recent experience. Joy feels to be whole body, coming from within. It can only be experienced in the moment. There is a transformational aspect to joy. Happiness, it seems, can be projected forward and backward in time. Joy, on exploration, feels to be an underlying state that is always there. It does, however, require availability. Joy is about being, and so is held in a greater context of meaning. Some would even say that it's our true nature and therefore cannot be pursued. Joy and happiness, although perceived differently, often are mixed together. Now, scientists have finally become interested in emotions as they now have the tools to measure and track comparative data. For example, they can distinguish between what we are describing as joy or happiness, or even sensations of awe in the body through the responses in the brain, but also through sound and facial expressions. From personal experience, to begin making linguistic distinctions is an example of refining our perceptions. Mark making is a somatic practice that invites this kind of exploration. The hands have often proven to be ahead of the brain, and so the visual arts can give insights to experience of joy to be more complex than happiness. Our engagement in any art form, either as creators or participants, is intimate to who we are. It is also bound to how we perceive and define ourselves. Consciously or unconsciously, it is part of our identity. Culturally, what we do and make reflects who we are, and so we are critical of what we make and how it is received. In this art practice, we shift the creative process from the polarities of good, bad, successful, unsuccessful, pleasure, pain, to a practice in presence or availability. We can only be without judgment if we are not personally invested or identified with the product. The art practice is to experience it as a collaboration. We are not trying for something. It is simply the engagement of experience. As mentioned earlier in the setup for the joke, there is a surprise punchline often that forces a leap in recognition. For me, it was the underlying currents of complex feelings that are included in joy. Reflecting on joy brought me to wonder about awe. In Decker Kiltner's book, Awe, The New Science of Everyday Wonder and How It Can Transform Your Life, his definition of awe is an overwhelming feeling of reverence, admiration, and even fear, produced by that which is a mystery beyond our understanding. We cannot chase joy, but I suspect awe can be cultivated in the sense of enlarging the container of the mystery. In marking into the paradigm, we are using art practice to develop our accident proneness as we confront the subject-object dichotomy. We establish relationships with the other, using art materials in new ways to create a larger container to embrace the mystery of the universe. The studio practice is a way to embody the relatedness to the universe with broader principles than the ones we have inherited. We are creating new definitions, new chances for possibility, and even provocative accidents. It is a practice of feeling, of being in the presence of something vast that transcends our understanding of the world and allows for exploration.